Hi, this is Sci-Fi Talk, the podcast on how sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and comics help us explore our humanity. Hi, this is Tony Tolato, and today we're going to talk about the Adventurous Eaters Club. And with its author, you might know him, Misha Collins of Supernatural fame. Welcome. And the idea of this book is really cool because getting kids and the whole family to eat together, that's a worthy project.
I hope so. Yeah. It has been for our family. You know, I think everybody has kids and thinks that they know how it's going to go. And that was definitely true of us. We were guilty of thinking that it was going to be easy and that we were going to have this really simple process with feeding our kids. And we noticed that very early on, meal times became stress times, and our kids weren't eating what we thought they would eat, and they weren't eating what we thought was healthy. And then eventually we were like, well, we don't want to fight with them. We'd rather just feed them whatever is easy to feed them. And so we started to feed them a lot of, plain pasta and processed snacks and crackers. And it was just sort of not at all where we had thought we would be with food and kids. And this book for us really is about sort of chronicling the transformation that we stumbled upon, really, of going from having these picky, resistant eaters and angry parents to having food be something that knits our family together and we have a lot of fun with, and is, also, as an aside, full of healthy whole foods. So we went through a process to get there that was at times a bit of a struggle. And we're kind of in this cookbook as like, all right, you know what? We actually, and by the way, we're not full of ourselves. We make lots of mistakes as parents, but we feel like we've actually sort of figured out a bunch of things about feeding our kids and how to make that a happy, joyful thing. And so we felt compelled to share that wisdom, if you can call it such, with the world. And hopefully it's translatable for other families.
Sci-Fi Talk continues, so stay tuned. Now, you co-wrote this with your wife, Vicki. So in the book, we're going to get recipes and tips on kind of how you brought the family together kind of thing?
So it is a cookbook, and it's got over 100 recipes of meals that can be prepared with the family. Kids, there's sort of a role for kids in each one of the recipes. There's something for the kids to do. All in all, the book is both cookbook and also a field guide to creating a happy, healthy family mealtime dynamic. And the recipes themselves sort of serve as conduits for that information.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino this year.
I was only playing for fun, so winning this was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's #1 social casino experience. It's serious fun with over 80 casino-style games to choose from. You too could win life-changing amounts of cash. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and give them a whirl. That's ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void or prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of a winner.
Judging by the cover, it seems like you're cooking at your home, especially when you're able to, is a family affair. You and your kids and your wife.
Yeah, I mean, we actually cook. We cook together as a group, and we often cook in rotation. Last night, Mason, my 7-year-old, spearheaded cooking dinner and making dessert, and I was her sous chef and helped her. And Vicki was out at a meeting and came home to leftovers, and West was sitting at the table, pounding his fork and knife on the table, waiting for us to serve him. So that was the dynamic last night, but it shifts from day to day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I mean, I know you've been cooking a while. So, how did the idea of the book come to you?
We discovered that we were having a difficult time feeding our kids, and that it was becoming like this source of stress and anxiety at mealtime, that they were eating foods that were, the foods that they were eating tended to be beige and bland and processed and not terribly nutritious.
Yeah.
And we stumbled into a bit of a discovery. One day I took my son grocery shopping and came home and took out of the grocery bag a packet of Jerusalem artichokes. And I, in my infinite ignorance, did not know what a Jerusalem artichoke was or how to prepare it. And I also knew that I had not put that item into the grocery basket. But my son, who was just barely older than a toddler at the time, said, "Oh, yeah, I put that in there." And I said, "Well, Wes, I don't know how to cook this." And he said, "I'll show you." And he then proceeded to saute the Jerusalem artichokes with a wide variety of additional seasonings and ingredients. I'm sure he was cooking something that had never been prepared in any pan in the world previously. But because he took ownership of that process, because it was his invention, he, who had heretofore been a really picky eater, who would never have deigned even look at a Jerusalem artichoke on his plate had I presented it to him, pridefully consumed all of it, looked at me to see whether I liked what he had prepared as well. And it was this real epiphany moment, like, oh, I see. If we give the kids a little bit of ownership in the process of cooking, they are suddenly curious and adventurous about the foods that they're eating. So that was the germ. Yeah. And then my wife, who happens, she has a PhD in history and has written a couple of books and is a bit of a nerd. She started delving into literature and research on picky eaters and healthy family foods. And so the book ended up being an amalgamation of our experience as a family experimenting with finding new ways to feed our kids and a lot of real research based on what experts agree on in terms of feeding children. And we learned so much along the way and felt like it was so valuable for our family and also for a lot of our friends' families.
Sci-Fi Talk returns in a moment.
You know, a lot of the kids who go to school with our kids and their parents were struggling with some of the same issues. And we noticed that when we shared what we had learned with them, they were also having some great success. So we decided to put it all together in a book to commemorate what for us felt like a real achievement of moving from having mealtime being a stressful, unhealthy experience to something that knit the family together and also frankly, the kids are, their comfort food is salad now, which feels like a real triumph.
Yes, absolutely. Here. I got to ask you, 15 years for Supernatural. I mean, it's been amazing. It's a show that people would always say, it's not going to make it. And here we are. What's it like working on this last season? And it's the last season.
I have to say it's bittersweet. We have, we've all been working on this show for most of our adult lives, and it has grown to really be a second family for us. So it's going to be really tough to move on. We love, the cast and crew of our show really love working together, and we also have a really amazing dynamic with our fans. It's a once in a lifetime experience, and we all are very cognizant of that fact, and we're loath to give it up. But at the same time, we've been working on it for most of our adult lives, and it feels like it's time for a change. So it's bittersweet. I'm somebody that really relishes adventure and new experiences. I took one of those online personality tests recently, and it rated me according to various different criteria, and one of them was values new experiences, and I was at like 98 out of 100 on valuing new experiences. So there's an element of excitement about doing something new in the future, but there's also a lot of sadness because we're moving on from something that we know we'll never have again, and that will be very, very special for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and Castillo had quite an arc, man. They put you through everything. My favorite when he was just a regular human guy.
I loved that arc for the character too. For those who are listening or don't know my character, I play an angel who comes down to Earth and then ends up living with humans. At some point along the way, for about a half a season, my character became human, and then he had to figure out what it meant to be human. And it was a fun thing to play with because he, for example, had never had to brush his teeth before, but then he knew that humans used toothpaste, and so he just emptied a tube of toothpaste into his mouth, trying to figure out how it works. And there were a lot of those kind of gaps along the way. I really enjoyed that arc too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, the Adventurous Eaters Club, co-written by yourself and your wife, Misha Collins. And I will say and stress 100% of the author profits from all the sales donated to nonprofits. I know with Random Acts and Gish, you've done a lot of charity work throughout the years. And here, that's a great way of giving back with this book.
Well, thank you. And I mean, the real reason that we want to get this book out there is because we feel like it's important for kids to have access to healthy, whole foods. We feel like we learned a little bit of something about that and want as many people as possible to share in that information. And it just seemed like it was a natural fit to take the proceeds from that and put it toward giving access to healthy, whole food to underserved families and communities. Because there are a lot of places in this country and around the world where people really don't have, access is a real issue. There are a lot of places in the United States where families live in urban areas that literally don't have easy access to grocery stores.
Yeah.
So they have to get all of their food from convenience stores. And as anyone who's ever been in a convenience store knows, you're not going to get any fresh vegetables there. You're going to be eating processed foods that are packed with preservatives. And that's just setting people up for really unhealthy, unhappy lives. So the charities that we're working with are charities that are geared toward changing that.
Hey, that's awesome. I really want to thank you for your time. I've admired your work for many years, and I'm a little sad that Supernatural is ending, but it's been a great ride. And I remember watching the first episode with the boys in the car, and I had no idea things would turn out the way they did.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. It's been great. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. And thank you all for listening. Take care.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and you're listening to Sci-Fi Talk.